Hello, my heathens. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to have a little chit chat regarding the topic of stagnation. Grab a drink, a sketchbook, or do whatever it is that you are doing while you are listening and or watching this video, and let's get into it. So first of all, hello. If you are new to my channel, my name is Karla. I'm an illustrator. There's not much else to say. That's a simple and painless enough introduction, right? I am not a complex creature. I'm just a gal who draws, and I happen to share my bat cave with the gremlin. So if you hear the squeaks in the background, you know who that is. All right, so let's get into it. Considering the current state of affairs in the world, I know that there are gobs of people out there who are feeling that their creativity is running on fumes at this point. Some people have a tendency to rely on a few tried and true supplies and techniques, which, while generally is not a bad thing at all, in times like these, when many of us are stuck living our lives indoors, some inadvertently develop routines in their creative practice as well. Creativity is typically expected to be an escape from routine. So when this creativity becomes routinely dull, we've got a problem. Creativity no longer feels like that escape that we're needing. And that, my nasties, is a horrific feeling. Now, I have to admit that I can't completely understand what this feels like because, as you all know, I am a hermity human hamster, and I am happy to spend every single waking moment eyeballs deep in paint, paper, ink, or buried in a myriad of notebooks that I have full of ideas. So I am never in need of inspiration. I am never bored per se. But, I see and I hear your grievances on social media, in my inboxes, etc. And yes, even I, while I don't necessarily get bored, I do enjoy learning new things. But most importantly, I don't like it when my weirdos are bored and unhappy. Like I said, I hear your grievances on social media, in my inboxes, and I don't like to hear you guys be unhappy and be bored with your art. No, I want to encourage you to make art. I don't want you to get bored by it. So I am here happy to dispense some tips, some ideas, perhaps some inspiration, I don't know, that may help steer you in a direction that reignites that flame under your butt that will lead you to enjoy making art again. I am not at all recommending that you live your life in a perpetual state of manic creativity the way that I do, because trust me, it ain't always healthy, and I know that. But I am encouraging you to get just a little crazy now and then. This doesn't necessarily relate only to illustration. This advice is relevant to painting, to coloring, to crafting, just anything that requires somewhat of a creative muscle. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Okay. So my tips, or I suppose now that I think about it, it's more of one all-encompassing tip, is to simply try a tool or technique that scares you. I, as an illustrator, am going to provide my own experience as an example, but again, this can apply to whatever creative pursuit that you have your eyes on. Okay, so the illustration that you see in the background, this illustration may at first glance appear to be very much the same as everything else that I produce because, well, it's my art. It's my style. Of course, it's going to resemble just about everything that I do. I have not suddenly decided to switch gears and become some sort of abstract muralist. That is, or rather, this is overall just another one of my watercolor and ink illustrations. So what's changed then? What am I going on about? What am I trying? All right. Untwist those panties, calm down, and let me speak. For this illustration, I have used a dip pen and hot press watercolor paper. Nothing mind-blowing, nothing dramatic. I did not scale the Andes to pluck the quill from some mythical bird to create this dip pen, nor did I trudge through the desert to find some sort of mystical scroll on which to draw. No, these are just two tools that you can easily find at your local art store, your local art and craft store, whatever, your local store that you can find tools to create with. These are easily accessible. However, these tools are not something that I make use of regularly. In fact, I had not touched a dip pen since I was in high school, and I hated the things back then. I'm still not entirely in love with the things now. In essence, sure, it's just a pen and paper, but the way that I need to adapt my techniques to use these tools is where the experimentation and where that fear lies. It is in using these tools that I jumped out of my own tried and true routines and played with a new way of working. A dip pen may just be a pen at the end of the day, like I said, but if you have any experience with these little buggers, you know how vastly different handling them is than, say, a technical pen or a micron pen. A quill is an entirely different animal. They require far more concentration and a different type of hand control, not to mention the fact that you must be cognizant of the ink level, not only on the nib itself, but also of the ink bottle itself, because if you are like me, if you have any klutzy bone in your body, a bottle of ink sitting on a table is a disaster waiting to happen if you are not actively concentrated on that bottle. The payoff, however, is fantastic. The ink is the blackest, most beautiful ink I've ever used, and the variation in line weight that you can achieve by using a quill is a lot of fun. Plus, the quill is going to be easier on my hands, and that is primarily what made me want to try this. I have tendonitis in my wrist, and now that I've started illustrating comics, I know that I need to change up my inking so that I do not run the risk of constantly flaring up that damn tendonitis to the point that I can't work. I've done this a few times and it kills me every single time. Can you imagine me? Manic little me. I work with my hands. Imagine what it's like to either have to grotesquely cut down on my productivity during the day or to just take a few days off altogether. It is just, it is inconceivably bad. As for the paper, as I said, nothing innovative, nothing out of the ordinary. This paper is just hot press watercolor paper. Generally, I prefer cold press. I like texture on the paper as it does result in some fun, unruly effects with liquid mediums. However, cold press paper is also a bit of a cop-out. Cold press watercolor paper, by its very nature, gives the illusion that the artist knows how to create painterly abstract effects, when in fact, the paper is actually doing much of the work for you. The various textures, the peaks, the valleys, all of that works together to pull your paint in ways that give you painterly effects without you needing to put forth much effort besides simply touching the brush to your paper. Hot press paper, on the other hand, is incredibly unforgiving. If you work too slowly, you're screwed. If you use too much water, screwed. Too little water, extra triple screwed. Why then would anyone choose hot press over cold press? Aside from the obvious masochistic factor of it all, why would you use it? Why? Okay, well, it is far smoother than cold press, and as such, inking is a cleaner, easier process. I'll never give up cold press paper. I enjoy it, but I can think of several instances where hot press would be preferable. If I'm going to work on highly detailed illustrations, or if I wish to use a tiny, teeny pen nib, for example, then I'm going to want hot press. Hot press is much less damaging to tiny technical pen tips, and I will be able to control the precision of those pens a bit better on a smoother surface. Also, if I want to give my liquid media a bit more of a solid look, well, the lack of porosity in the paper will help to achieve that flatter color effect, and it'll force me to become better at handling my colors. As I said, cold press paper, a bit of a cop-out. I love the stuff, but if you really want to learn your chops with color mixing and handling watercolor, then you might want to try hot press paper because it is a pain. It's a pain. Like quill pens, I had tried to use hot press paper in the past and I despised it. I absolutely loathed it because I needed that fun texture. But as I was trying dip pens on for size, I didn't want to risk damaging my fresh new pens. In one fell swoop, I was able to try 2 supplies that I had hated in the past, and now I am gaining a new appreciation for them both. Granted, I did use brushes and technical pens in this illustration as well, but the key takeaway is that I tried 2 new tools. Not only new tools, but tools that I hated. And that is my takeaway. Try a new tool or technique, or both, that intimidates you. Better yet, try something that you've played with previously and hated. No, you may not be happy with the results, but being satisfied with the end product is not always the point. I repeat, being satisfied with the end product isn't always the point. The point is to get out of your slumpy, frumpy, stagnant routine and just try something different. I have a long way to go until I feel comfortable enough to ink a full comic book with a dip pen. Trust me, I have a long way to go. But I can see the potential. We'll see what happens. And that is going to do it for today, my fiends. Thank you so much for watching. Take a peek down in that description box. Everything that you need to know will be down below, including where you can find and stalk me on social media. Thank you as always for being here. Be bad, be good. I don't give a damn which. I don't give a damn. Just try something new and do your best to come back in one piece. I'll catch you in the next one.